If you've ever taken a cruise from New Orleans, this area might look real familiar to you. But for the rest of y'all, let me introduce you to the Port of New Orleans. This ain't just a place for vacations and getaways. This is one of the busiest ports in the country. Ships are always coming and going, moving stuff in and out the city every day. And that big old river you see, that's the Mississippi, one of the longest rivers in the world. It runs all the way up through the country, through places like Memphis, St. Louis, all the way up to Minnesota. And back in the day, this river wasn't just for travel, it was everything. This is how a lot of people, and sadly a lot of slaves, were brought into this city. New Orleans was one of the biggest slave ports in America. So yeah, this river right here, it holds a lot of history and a lot of pain. Now look up. That's the Crescent City connection. You see those two bridges? They connect the East Bank to the West Bank, and they light up real pretty at night. But the past, not so pretty. Because right here, on this same ground, something happened that they don't talk about enough. It was March 11, 1895. There had been a strike going on. White dock workers were mad about pay, so they walked off the job. To keep the port running, companies started hiring black workers to come in and do the work. Now, think about that. These were men just trying to feed their families, trying to work. But that move, bringing in black workers, made a lot of white screwmen furious. And just so you know, a screwman wasn't just some regular dock worker. These were the ones who had the strength and the skill to pack big old cotton bales onto the ships. They used these heavy metal jack screws to tightly twist and press the cotton into the holes. That's why they called it screwing cotton. It was hard, physical work, real demanding, real important, and it paid well. So you already know, black men getting those jobs, that was a threat. And that's why this whole thing turned violent. On the morning of March 12th, a group of black men were walking to the docks near the Harrison Cromwell steamship line. But before they could even get there, shots rang out. They didn't see it coming. They couldn't even tell where it was coming from. Bullets were flying from rooftops, windows, even housetops. They were surrounded. It wasn't a clash, it wasn't a brawl, it was an ambush. By the time it was over, at least 6 black men were dead. Only 4 of them made it to the records. Henry James, Leonard Mallard, William Campbell, and Jules Calise Carabee, who wasn't even working. He was just standing nearby. And the others, we still don't know their names. Because when you're not the one writing the history books, people like you get left out. More than a dozen others were wounded that day. Some barely made it, some didn't. The violence was so out of control that the governor at the time, Murphy J. Foster, had to call in the state militia to restore order. And if that name sounds familiar, it should. Murphy J. Foster was the grandfather of Mike Foster, the former governor of Louisiana. Well, back to the story. After all that bloodshed, nobody was arrested. Nobody was charged. Nobody was held accountable. Sad. Now, don't get it twisted. Black folks were not just sitting back. Just 3 years earlier, in 1892, black and white workers had actually come together and went on strike side by side in New Orleans. It was one of the few moments of unity between poor black and white laborers in the South. But that unity didn't last. As soon as the pressure hit, racism did what racism always does, tears it all apart. And this massacre, it fits the pattern we've seen in this city before and after. The Mechanics Institute, the Battle of Liberty, the Dock Workers Massacre, and then the Central City Massacre. Every time we rise, there's a riot. Every time we try to move forward, there's always pushback. And ain't it something? They say we lazy, say we don't want to work, they say we're always looking for a handout, but when we did work, when we did show up and did the hardest jobs, they killed us for it. So when they say y'all didn't try hard enough, y'all could have made it if y'all just worked harder, we did try. We've always tried. Y'all just always found a way to stop it. But we didn't stop. We didn't disappear. We're still here. So the next time you walk by this river, or take a cruise, or drive on that bridge, remember, black men were murdered here just for showing up to work, and the system let it happen. No plaque, no sign, no justice. But we remember because we're still standing. And y'all know how the algorithm does, so remember to comment, like, and share, and remember to subscribe for more stories that they won't put in your textbook. Peace.